Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, behind me is my 2003 VW Touareg, and after an awful lot of effort, it's now finally fixed and looking its best. Honestly, I'm thrilled with the result. I mean, look how good it looks. It's just really satisfying to take a car that needs some TLC and bring it back to life. I bought this car earlier this year for just £1,400, which might seem like a bit of a bargain for a car like this, especially one with a 3.2 litre V6 petrol engine. But, as you can guess, it did need quite a bit of work, and I've kind of overspent. The MOT had actually expired and it needed quite a bit of work to get through a fresh one, but I've had it all done now and, well, I've decided to keep it. Considering it's nearly 22 years old, I still think it looks really good. I think in terms of design, it was way ahead of its time, and that's why I figured it really deserved a second chance. So let me talk you through everything this car's had done since it joined the fleet. Let's get started. It's quite a long list, this. The first thing I had done was replace all 4 tyres. So we've gone with Goodyear on the front, and on the back we've gone with Continentals. Now, I'm a bit ashamed of this, but they're part-worn tyres, not brand new. But at least they were decent quality, and they matched on each axle, which is really important on a four-wheel drive. You see, with this mild restoration of the Touareg, I have tried to be a bit more budget conscious. The tyres cost me about £300, which is about half the price of brand new ones, so I thought that was quite a wise decision. And also another area where I've saved some money, I didn't bother having the wheels refurbished. I was considering taking this to Prestige wheels and having them powder coated, but they're not too bad, so I thought I'd just try and get away with it. I might get them done eventually. But I did spend £15 on some brand new VW wheel sensors. The old ones had faded, so now I think it looks much better. Mechanically, I've had quite a bit of work done under here as well. So it's had a full engine service, including spark plugs, filters, fluids, everything's been replaced. And it now runs like a Swiss timepiece. The engine's actually a beaut. Do you want to hear it? It had an air filter, oil filter, cabin filter, fuel filter, spark plugs. Now, more worryingly, it had a coolant leak and no one could get to the bottom of where it was coming from. Eventually, it was traced to the water pump housing, so it's had a new one of those. So now I've got a 110,000 mile VR6 Touareg that doesn't use a drop of coolant or oil, and I'm really happy about that. Something else it needed for its MOT was a new suspension spring. Now, one had cracked and snapped, but with suspension springs, you should never just replace one. You should always do them in pairs. So it's had 2 brand new front springs. Something else I decided to have done was an automatic transmission service. Now, I always preach this. I've preached this since day one of these videos, but it's just something that nobody ever bothers to do. So I ran to my automatic gearbox specialist, who's drained the fluid and put in a fresh filter. In fairness, it was shifting fine before, but you just never know. It'd done 110,000 miles and it's 22 years old, and I'm guessing it was on its original fluid and filter. So for the sake of a couple of £100, it's just given me some peace of mind. I know it's been done. And it now shifts smoothly. I mean, to be fair, it always changed gears smoothly, but at least now I know it's been done. Oh, it's also had a new battery as well. See, I have massively overspent on this car. I just wanted to get it as nice as I possibly could. Something else I did, I went over to a place called Keyfax in Duckingfield. Now, this era of VW keys, same as like the Mark IV Golf, Mark V Golf, they always sort of snap off here where you attach them to your key ring. So I had 2 keys for this car, but no way to attach it. So it was in a little money bag from the bank. So I went to Keyfax and for £30, they fitted a brand new shell. So I'm quite pleased with that. So that was all the mechanical bits done. The next job was to get it looking right. Now, it always looked quite good. I'm a big fan of this colour, to be honest. I think it looks really classy. But there were a few areas that needed some attention. There were a few scuffs on the bumper corners, and we had some flaking paint and some flaking lacquer on all 4 door handles. So I took the car to Jimmy the magician, and he's worked his magic. He's done a really good job. Now, this cost me £325, I think, but I think it was £325 well spent. He masked off the door handles and repainted them. He's painted the front and rear bumpers, and he's buffed the whole car, and it's now got a real deep shine to it. Well, I think I've told you everything about the exterior and all the mechanical bits, so why don't we hop inside and I'll talk you through what I've done there. And also, it is flipping freezing out here today. Let's get those heated seats on. Now inside, in fact, let me just fire it up. It does sound nice, this car. Put my heated seat on, they get nice and toasty. Now inside it was all in quite good condition, but it was just a bit grubby, so it needed a very good valet. And also, it stunk of cigarette smoke. I took the car to Tameside Detailing and left it there for a full valet, and I also asked them to let off one of those odour bombs. Now, people always ask me about this, but I always use these particular odour bombs. They're available on Amazon, and they're called Airvidox. They cost £20. You get 2 little tubs, you mix one with the other, and then leave it in the car overnight. It's potent stuff, it's horrible stuff, but they work really well. It just completely neutralises any bad odours. There's still one more job that I'd like to do with this car. I know you'll think I'm a bit fussy now, but all the black paint here has come off some of the buttons and switches, and it just looks a bit unsightly. I just wonder whether there's some company out there who'd, I don't know, renovate it for me. If that could be done for a reasonable price, I would definitely get that done. I mean, look at this area down here where the light switch is. It just looks a bit of a mess. So yeah, if I could find a company to, well, same with the window switches. But yeah, if I could find a company that would refurbish all this, then I'd definitely look into it. Should we take it for a spin then, so you can see exactly why I'm keeping it? Let's hit the road. Before we talk about the drive then of the Touareg, let me thank today's video sponsor, Car Vertical. Now, before you think about buying a used car or motorbike, it's really important that you do a thorough vehicle history check first. And I always use Car Vertical. It's really easy to use. All you do is go to carvertical.com and type in the reg or the VIN number, and then simply check out the vehicle you're thinking about buying. And what this does, it checks database in 35 different countries. So it produces a report which tells you if it's ever been stolen, written off, had a mileage rollback, or has outstanding finance on it. In addition to that, it shows you the ownership changes, the average market value, the spec of the car. It's a really thorough tool. There are an awful lot of scammers and con artists out there, so you just don't want to end up buying someone else's headache. It only takes a couple of minutes to produce the report, and it isn't expensive either. And it's cheaper still if you use my promo code HIGHPEAK. That's HIGHPEAK, all one word, HIGHPEAK, and you get 20% off each and every check that you do. So this isn't just a one-time promo code, you can use it as many times as you like. So thank you, Car Vertical, for sponsoring today's video and helping me pay these horrendous repair bills on my old Touareg. The thing that I most like about this car is that it feels chunky. It feels like it could go anywhere. Just then I was driving over a rough road and it just feels like it'd take anything in its stride. I particularly like the interior because, again, everything feels chunky and manly. Even like the climate controls down here, they have a satisfying click to them. Everything's nice and precise. I love the automatic gear selector. It feels like you're in a big Tonka toy. It's a little bit like a Hummer H2 actually. Only unlike a Hummer H2, driving this is, you know, socially acceptable. The seats are nice and comfortable, they're nice and padded, and to say they're 22 years old, there isn't a little bit of wear even. They're in really good condition. In terms of performance, you get around 250 horsepower from this old VR6 engine, and it feels like, well, it feels like enough. Watch this. It makes a really nice note, to be honest. Okay, that's quite frightening, really. It isn't quick, but it's just quicker than a car like this ought to be. You can actually start to get a bit of a pace on these country roads. It doesn't feel like a modern SUV though, it feels like an old-fashioned truck, and I like that. It feels almost like a first-gen Mercedes ML. It still has that agricultural feel to it, and I think that's crucial with an SUV. I think it's fair to say I was never a huge fan of these when they came out, but all these years later, I've learned to appreciate them a lot more. I think they were really advanced for the time. In terms of fuel efficiency, it's probably best we don't talk about that. I've been doing about 16 miles per gallon. Which isn't great, is it? Not great at all. It wasn't great back in 2003, to be honest, but in 2024, it's, well, borderline embarrassing. Still, good news about the heated seats, which are nice and toasty. I mean, to be fair, I could probably get more miles per gallon for it if I didn't drive like this. But then where's the fun in that? Oh yeah. This thing flies, actually. All these months I've just been driving this really delicately. I don't really know why. When you start to poke it, it bites back. It's a cracking engine, this old 3.2 V6. Something else to note is the brakes. The brakes are really good. Although speaking of brakes, I don't like the handbrake. So for the handbrake, you don't have a lever here, you have a foot brake. I've never really been a fan of those. So in fact, let me demonstrate. So to apply the handbrake, you simply take your left foot and click it all the way to the floor. That's fine. Then to release it, you've got a little lever down here to the right hand side of the steering wheel. But it doesn't release very easily, so you've got to sort of help it up with your left foot. I don't really use it, to be honest. I just whack it in park and hope for the best. When you get to about 4,000 RPM in this, it does make a lovely noise. Wait for it. There we go, that's the noise. In terms of visibility then, as you can imagine, it is superb. You get these huge door mirrors, a nice big rear view mirror, and you sit up nice and high, so you can literally see everything around you. In addition to that, the steering's nice and light. It isn't overly assisted, so you still get a nice feel. You know, thinking about it, most modern SUVs, well, most aren't even four-wheel drive for a start. Most are just kind of soft roaders, aren't they? This isn't. I think this actually straddles the line between old-style 90s boxy four-wheel drives and new, later, more luxurious SUVs. I think this was the era when they'd got it just right. This was the sweet spot. It's both agricultural enough to fit in around here, but also luxurious enough to, you know, to want to drive it and use it on a regular basis. On a previous video that I did with this, I mentioned almost like a wheel bearing noise, like a dry bearing sort of noise coming from this transmission area here. So I got the gearbox serviced as a precaution, really, and I read some of the comments, and lots of you said that it could be the prop shaft bearing. So I had a look online and I found a repair kit for £70. I took that down to my mechanics and asked them to repair it for me. But when they got it up on the ramp, the whole prop shaft had been replaced recently. So they said it definitely isn't that because it's been replaced. You know, it can't be that. And now, well, now I drive it today, I can't really hear it. There's still something there, but it might just be because it's a 22-year-old four-wheel drive car. I'll turn my heater down so you can hear this. It's a weird one, that. Don't know. What else could it be if it's not gearbox or prop shaft? Not sure. If you've got any ideas, by the way, let me know below in the comments, but it's not keeping me awake at night. It's all right. Quite happy with it. I know I mentioned this at the start, but I do really like the colour of this as well. Most cars you see these days are just, look at this, grey, black. It's quite rare these days to find a car like this in a nice strong colour choice. So, like I said, I'm going to keep this car and, I don't know, just use it occasionally. I enjoy it, so why not? To be honest, guys, I was planning to work out my total with this car. I was going to go through all my bills and work out exactly how much to the penny this car owed me. But I started to tot it up in my head and then it was quite depressing, really, so I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to dwell. But I think, well, I paid £1,400 for it and I think I've probably spent that again. Sometimes I think you've got to look at the bigger picture, haven't you? Yes, I might have spent the purchase price again, fixing it up, but I thought it was worth it. Well, I think it's worth it. I think, to be honest, if we were to try and sell this car today, I think my money's safe. I could probably get £3 for it, maybe £3,250. It is an awful lot of car for £3,250, isn't it? Not that that's my plan, of course, I'm going to keep it. But still, it's nice to, well, I'm just trying to convince myself, really, aren't I? Trying to convince myself that my money wasn't just wasted. The other thing is, now I've had everything done to it, and I've spent lots of money on it, and it's now looking its best. I mean, it's only done 110,000 miles. I think there's another 100,000 miles in this engine, easily. And of course, that's never going to happen, is it? Because I'm never going to do 100k in it, but who knows? Well, I think that's about it then. I'm going to get this back to work and keep it out of the weather. I might try and park it in a garage somewhere. Just try and preserve it. And yeah, that's about it. So thank you once again for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you did. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. I'll leave the links below. And yeah, cheers guys. I'll see you next time.